I let that dry. I suppose that I could have done a little bit more, but I do like, especially if there's a shift in value in the water. I feel like if I move things around, it might shift in a way that I don't want it to. The paint, that is. I'll just let it dry, or dry it first before I try to do anything else. Here's a little bit more of this dark grayed out green area that's going to be in shadow, and this is going to be quite dark. This whole thing is going to definitely darken up as it gets to this main part here, as it gets higher up and less in the light. Let's hit this shape, this big one here, and I'm still using my small brush, even though I suppose it's kind of an area I could use a larger brush in, but partly it's a tricky little space, and I need some fine control. And one thing you're going to see me do is the previous layer that was down there that wasn't a very clean shape, I'm just going to sort of agitate over that, and that'll kind of loosen that up and make it so it just kind of turns into part of this new shape. Don't be afraid to overlap. I sort of didn't overlap there. I will say it is certainly tricky to paint upside down like this. I'm kind of making a couple things up here as I go. It helps to be familiar with the one who chose this subject. I'm just going to try to mix it up in here a little bit. That's a little bit of blue. Heck, this is kind of wacky. Let's see what this does. How about a little? This is all going to be very dark and whatnot. So, how about a little bit of a little bit of red? And that's a little bit more purple too. When I started studying people who painted, people who would do sort of seemingly nonsense making color changes like this, didn't seem to make sense to me. But the more you study color, especially, and the more you study shadows and reflective color, the more interesting things get. I'm gonna leave that like that for now. See how it dries. Oop. Shifting. Let me see, do I want to do you? I'm talking to my painting. I think I will start in on this one too. Those will run together, but that's okay. Same thing here. I try to sort of imagine what might be reflecting into there, and truth be told, it might be some yellow like that. Curious how that is gonna play out after everything is going on. But I might do something similar to that down here and towards the bottom. It's getting a little too watery. Towards the bottom, drop in some reds and some burnt orange to suggest maybe some light from the planter is bouncing off into this. In the photo, this is darn close to black, and it's actually going to be, now that I think about it, casting a shadow onto the sliding purple door as well, which I suppose I never really drew in. That could be fun. So a little bit of Quin burnt orange and naphthol red maybe. And that may seem kind of wacky right now, but let's say I'm going to come back and paint over a little bit more, and it'll be a little bit darker, won't be so obvious. It'll be a cool, subtle sort of impact. Let's see. Oh, I wonder if there's time on the video. It may cut me off here, but I'm going to kind of for this top sort of overhang, just going to start making that darker. It's just straight Quin burnt orange. And you know, I could go with naphthol, but I think I'm going to go with the Quin rose here. And I'm not sure if I love that. Since I'm not sure, drop in some water and just kind of lighten everything up. I don't really have a clear idea in my mind what that shift in color and value is supposed to be. Especially when I was upside down, it seemed I was doing it backwards. Let me see. Coax. Can you guys go down there? Part of it is I'm having fun kind of placing, hopefully, I don't know if you can see that, the colors of the planter, kind of playing with that being somewhat similar. But I think it needs to be more yellow. And eventually it's going to be sort of out of the light, so I'll have to figure out a way to tame it down a little bit. Seems like it does get darker as it as the shape gets closer over here. That was the sign. This is the sign of not a great brush stroke, but I'm gonna worry about that later. it really takes this sort of push and pull and changing one and changing the other. But it helps to sort of try to get everything you can in its most basic value that it's going to be in relation to everything else, and then start adjusting. Okay, I'll let that dry. But first, you didn't get any. This little spot over here didn't get any violet. To make it appear that it's actually a continuation behind. Did you? It's a continuation of the wall behind it. So I'm trying to match that up with that. Yeah, it's good enough. Okay, a lot of stuff is drying and wet, and I'm ready for a little break.